I'm Daniel G. Garza, and welcome to another episode of Put It Together. Thank you for joining me. I want to welcome all of our friends on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. If you're watching, would you mind sharing this on your page so that other people can watch along with you? If you're watching us on YouTube, do us a favor, scroll down, hit that subscribe button, and smash that notification bell and let you know every time there's a new show on the air. And remember, we got shows. On Mondays, you can catch the horoscopes. Wednesdays, Kristen and Daniel. On Fridays, the Cardivo. And on Saturday mornings, you can catch Put It Together. And remember, every once in a while, we throw in a special show just to throw you off. So make sure that you're following us on any of the pages, whatever channel you're watching on, so you can get updates on all of our shows. I'm really excited to have my guest today. Let me put up this banner here. Bret Miller was diagnosed at age 24 with breast cancer after first finding the lump at age 17. Upon learning of his diagnosis and hearing that many men don't speak about breast cancer due to the fact that many think it's only a woman's disease or emasculating when diagnosed, Bret made the decision that no man would ever feel alone again when they hear those words, "You have breast cancer." Male Breast Cancer Coalition was formed to ensure that all men have a support system to go to when they are diagnosed. Bret is from Kansas City, Missouri, and is the director of pool and rink activities at the Carriage Club. Bret is a die-hard Chiefs, Royals, and Jayhawk fan. Bret has an amazing support system from his family, mom, dad, and siblings. Bret's drive to keep his mission going comes from his wife, Tasha, daughter Riley, and new baby boy Ryder. And without further, let me bring Bret on stage. Hey, Bret, how's it going?
It's going great, bud. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's always great to be on any type of shows or podcasts like this to share out my story, my life's work.
Excellent. I want for those of you that follow the show and want to hear how I met my guest. I actually had to ask because I kind of forgot. But we met on Blue Note. For those of you that have heard me talk about Blue Note before, it's a we're both ambassadors in the cancer ambassadors for Blue Note, and we met in one of the
It was like the
city
big,
group
the big group, the first one for it,
group,
one
yeah.
for it. So
So that was quite a bit though. It was
that
last
was
year
like
sometime,
it was January.
right?
Yeah, when we set it up, schedule wise to do this back in, I think it was beginning of April,
Yeah,
and that was just a few days after my son was born. So it was a
I was gonna
little
say.
hectic time for me at that point.
Sometimes when the boss calls, he's like, "I'm ready to come." Like, no show this week. But no, congratulations on the baby. We had to
Thank
reschedule
you.
that one because of the baby, but babies first. So congrats on that.
Thank
I
you.
don't have kids, so I don't know what I'm talking about. But congratulations to you. We have a lot to talk about, so I'm gonna shut up now. And Bret Miller, tell us how you put it together.
Well, so like you briefly said in the little bio before, I was 24 diagnosed, but I was 17 when I first saw my lump. I to uh, I found I was watching TV just over the weekend. It was in my senior year of high school. I was kind of laying there and it just kind of stretched back and kind of just scratched, and then I was like, "Wait, what's that?" It was a lump right below my right nipple. I was getting ready to start football for high school or for my senior year, but we have to get physicals, so that everything gets checked out to make sure that you're safe to play. Um, so I'd gone to the doctor to get a physical, and it was shortly after I found that lump, so I brought it up to the doctor. They check everything out, and they're not worried about it. This is 2003, so I was told that it was a calcium buildup. You're going through puberty. Should dissipate and go away. It's nothing to worry about. Um, so I took the advice of a lot of us kind of will trust many of our doctors just because of what they have to go through in schooling and knowledge and what they're learning and studying and stuff. We expect that they know a lot. Um, so I just kind of went on my way. Into senior year, I had to go get vaccination shots and stuff for college. So I did that. But at the time, I met with the doctor. With the doctor there, I brought it up to him as well, different doctor, and almost said the same exact thing along the lines of calcium buildup, puberty. It's nothing to worry about. You're a healthy young male. And shouldn't have to worry. It's nothing big. So I just that's the ward that I took. Um, for 7 years pretty much. So um, went all throughout have health insurance throughout college because, as everybody knows, health insurance in America is not cheap by any means. My parents are self-employed, and trying to keep have health insurance for a family of six while being self-employed is not a easy task. So pretty much we went through all at college, having the lump still. Um, Graduated, I took the job at the country club, the same place that I'm still at currently. And, within the 30 days, 90 days or so, I had health insurance. Insurance through there for about a year and a half. And I didn't do anything with it except if I had like a cold, went to the doctor to go get checked out for that. But I never went to go get a physical. I never went to go get, just make sure everything, full body, sure everything was good. It wasn't until my parents, had asked, did I still have that lump? When was the last time I went to go? When was the last time I had everything really checked? And I told them, I was like, well, when I had the physical before college, so it had been some time. They asked about that lump because they knew about the lump. I told them about it, um, and and they were like, well, you've got health insurance, use it. And to go with the title of the show, putting it together, we'll get to it and stuff, but things I realized after being diagnosed is that men, we get really stubborn about our health and we don't go to the doctor when we probably really should. So, what I didn't tell my parents, tell anybody, honestly, besides the lump, and it wasn't even until my doctors until I was actually diagnosed with breast cancer. If I were to squeeze the lump or bump into something, I had a discharge. It was like a yellow orangish discharge. Sometimes it was red for bloody, but I thought that that was the calcium buildup fading and finally going away, like I was talking about. The feel up, and that's what it was. Um, but I went to the doctor, went to go get a physical, and he does all the tests for a physical. This is 2010, and for a male, they don't check breast at all. It's not one of the things they check because the rarity of breast cancer. I don't have a family. There's no direct family history of it. There's cousins on my mom's side, female cousins, about a dozen, but there's no like direct line, so it's not something that a doctor's looking for. So he does the physical for male, does the blood work, and he says, "All right, great. We'll get back to you in about a week. The blood work comes back from the lab, but from everything I see, all your labs, everything looks good here. We'll just wait for the blood work." And he was pretty much out the door before I stopped, and I was like, "Hey, doc, sorry. My parents, this is main reason I'm here is because of this lump under my nipple, and my parents would kill me if I didn't say anything about it." And the second like lump and nipple, he immediately closed the door, turned around, and came back over and sat down and kind of out and um, didn't lead to anything like anything major from it, but he he goes, you know what, let's just let's get you set up for an ultrasound, and we'll go from there. We'll see kind of what just come back with. Like, okay. So I get set up for an ultrasound. Um, I knew the diagnostics, the imaging place is what it was. Like it was actually done straight from his this, and I asked it many times. So that's where I went. That's where I walked into. It was like a week later or whatnot. But I went into the wrong building. This other building is it's just a white building, no name on it. It's just the address. So I didn't know that's where I needed to go. So I walk into there and they're like, "Oh no, you're in the other building behind us." They just said, and I was like, "Okay, so that's what I'm looking for." And finally get to there and it's pink lettering, almost like a pink door and everything, women's clinic. Um, and I thought it was just like a joke. This is where I have to get. This is where the emasculating part comes in because everything that you see or happens if you're a male and breast cancer is a possibility, everything is pink. So I walk in. I got greeted by name. I don't think very many men have that happen, or very many. happened walking into the women's clinic. So I got greeted by name. I walked in. They're like, "Are you Bret Miller?" And I'm like, yeah. So I got the questionnaire of the, your name, address, insurance, women's dress, menstrual cycle, are you pregnant, so on, all this other stuff. They didn't have a generic one. All they had was one questionnaire. So I literally had I could only answer 5 or 6 questions on the thing, just about name, insurance, and address. Um, so taken back, and I get handed a pink gown, dressed, from, waist up and everything, put all this pink gown and everything. And I was kind of shuffled in between rooms because of the women back there and stuff. So they had to make sure the hallway was cleared so that I could come out and everything. It was awkward in that part. I go back, they do the ultrasound. The nurse tech gets the doctor. The doctor comes in and checks to make sure that what was requested is there. And she looks at the monitor and myself and does a double take and immediately goes, you know what, let's it's just right down the hall. She's kind of stuttering. I mean, just, it's right down the hall. There's a mammogram. We could do a mammogram. In that way that, we cover all the bases. You don't have to come back in and, take time off work and do all, yada, yada, yada. Every time I tell that part of the story and I rethink it through, she totally knew that something bad was there.
Right.
And but when she said, let's go do a mammogram, I turned my head to her and I go, "Is that physically possible?" I mean, it is small-breasted women. It happens and stuff, but it was not the most comfortable exams ever. Um, but it ended up being the better one between the two images of the ultrasound mammogram. The one that actually showed the tumor better, where it helped the doctors with the diagnosis. Um, but after I got the imaging, I got set up immediately with the general surgeon, and the general surgeon looking at it was like, it looks filled up, but the time that you've had the lump and everything, I think it's just a safer way to just take the lump out. Not at any point is anybody yet still said breast cancer.
Right.
Nobody said the possibility that it could be or is or anything about breast cancer. The surgeons just said, yeah, calcium buildup. We'll just take the lump out and just go from there, based on for the 7 years plus that you've had it. It's just the thing to do. He did tell me that insurance was going to deny it immediately because if I put this through, he goes, insurance is going to see male surgery on chest. They're going to go, nope, we're not paying for this. And so he goes, let's just plan on scheduling for 3 weeks out because it's going to be a week out. It's going to take a week for them to deny it, then 2 weeks for us to then prep and do everything. So so it did. That's exactly what happened. Got denied and everything. So the date that he had originally set for is what we stayed with. I go in, they take the lump out. I think it was like an hour, 2 hour surgery tops. It was very quick. And they took the lump out, and I went back home, recovered, and went back to work like nothing happened. It was that quick of a procedure because it was underneath the nipple and took the lump out. So we back up, and that was it.
This might, let me pause you for a second because we do have a question already on the board, and it might tie into what you're talking about right now.
Close to it.
It says, "Can men have a mastectomy? Do men have breast material?"
Yes, they can, and I'm fine with showing it. So there's my scar and everything, and that's my tattoo and everything that I got done afterwards. And we can talk about the ribbon and the tattoo later and everything. But yes, we do have material. We do have. That's what breast cancer attacks. It attacks the breast tissue. It does not attack the muscle. Well, I mean, at least in my case, I hate going into that all the medical terms and terminology and everything because I'm horrible when it comes to remembering all that. I pulled the chemo brain card, so just when it comes to that because it's a lot. So yes, we can
To
have
answer the
mastectomy.
question, we do.
We have breast tissue. That's what breast cancer is attacking, is the breast tissue. So there are men out there that aren't comfortable with saying breast cancer. So they say they have chest cancer or pet cancer. And that may be good for your mentality and how you cope with it and everything, but they need to also understand that it is breast cancer, and that's what you got diagnosed with. Because chest cancer can be multiple different cancers. But if you
We
keep
have
saying
another
chest
comment
cancer,
on. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
if you keep saying chest cancer and stuff, then people are thinking everything else besides breast cancer, and that
Besides
does
breast
not help the awareness that we need. That this is not just a female's disease; it's not a male's disease, but it's the people's disease. You
Yeah.
know, if you have
I always
breast tissue,
I tell people for your mental health because I'm an anal cancer survivor and we're very similar in the stigmas and shames and
hmm
silences that come with the cancer. I always tell people the C is silent when it comes to anal cancer, but uh, I'm gonna show this comment and then I've got a couple of questions on what you just talked about. Uh,
absolutely.
Robert P. Graves, who's actually he was on the show last week. He's an author. Brett, as a former board member of the local Susan G. Komen Breast Cancer Foundation in West New York, I applaud your voice. Your story is amazing. We must take our health seriously. Great job for standing up for yourself. Okay.
Thank you. That's and yeah, and we can keep the show rolling and along the story and kind of address where Patrick and stuff that um, so I surgery they took out the lump not one still not once at least to me but probably I think to my parents they might have said something about it. I signed all HIPAA forms so that anything that could be discussed about what we were going through could be talked to with my parents if they asked so they didn't get I was 24 so they didn't like stonewall and been like oh well we can't say anything. I signed all HIPAA. I was like I need somebody else there. Everything about cancer is a lot of information. You have to have somebody there helping you out. You need a caregiver. You need somebody, a friend, parent, sibling, whoever that you trust, be there with you to help take notes because when they start talking here,
Yeah.
it's like you go deaf and everything comes at you like a freight train. All this information, and you're like, wait, what? Um, so it's still not at any point was it didn't to me breast cancer is a possibility until I was leaving for the day and I got called from the surgeon saying that the preliminary pathology reports are saying that it's breast cancer. I haven't fully read the reports, but I'll get back. I'll read them and get back to you in 5 days. Like he was like shipping something out. Days is when you'll get it. Get the information and stuff. And it was just there wasn't like, are you sitting down? Hey, we need to discuss this. Um, we whatever. He just straight out told me, and that was that. And pretty much hung up the phone after that. I just kind of was stunned there for a second. I didn't know what to think, but ultimately all I could think was, well, the lump's gone. The biggest issue is probably out of the way. Let's see where this goes. I called my dad and I told him what the diagnosis was, and he asked me, he's like, well, yeah, I think so. I was like, but I'm getting ready to head down to to my bartending gig and stuff, and we're going to be busy. I don't have time to answer all of these questions that mom has going to have. So please try not to say anything to her until I get off work, and we can discuss later. Like, because I don't have anything. He hung up the phone, and like 5 minutes later, my mom calls and asks all these questions, and I was like, "Gee, Dad, thanks for holding out." And
Right.
when I finally saw him, and he was just like, "I couldn't." I literally hung up the phone, and I turned around, and she was there. She knew that mother instinct. She knew something was wrong. Um, it was still probably the better thing though that she knew immediately because it was still within office hours time, and she called hell with this surgeon. And why wouldn't you call us? Why wouldn't you let us know after you telling him so? And his response was, "He's 24 years old. He can handle it." That was
Yeah.
it.
So
Nobody diagnoses of cancer. It sucks hearing those words and everything. So, needless to say, we were in that doctor's office the next day, and not 3 to 5 days later. So it was good that she knew.
I agree totally. Christian, my partner, was my caregiver, and from day one, I was like, I need you there with me because I'd heard
hmm
from other people going through cancer that it's easy to forget a lot of details. You retain like 20% of what they tell you when you're in that office.
Oh, yeah.
So for anybody watching, if you knock on wood, but if you're ever having to go in to check for any cancers, please, please, please don't try to be brave. Don't do it yourself. Take somebody with you. Or if you really can't, record the conversation so that you can hear it back later.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
so I have a couple of questions based on what you were talking about. Because first of all, I want to it's so similar again to anal cancer because the symptoms um, for anal cancer are so similar to having malnutrition, like bad nutrition for stuff, um, hemorrhoids. For gay men, it could be associated with rough sex. So sometimes anal cancer gets misdiagnosed. Is that kind of what was happening to you then? They were just misdiagnosing the cancer.
They were, I mean, so at the beginning when I first found the lump, yes, they were probably misdiagnosing it, but at the same time, they, nobody's, I don't think anybody's thinking that a 17-year-old male, when I actually went to the doctor, was going to have breast cancer. The lump of breast cancer. Um, it also goes back to having health insurance, and many people don't have health insurance. So not going to the doctor is another issue. Being a male and being stubborn about your health and not going to the doctor because you don't think anything's wrong, or you just keep pushing it off, keep pushing it off. That's
Man
another
stubborn? Nah.
exactly. That's another issue. So that's what we are also, as well as building the awareness about men with breast cancer and the possibilities of getting breast cancer, being so stubborn about your if something is wrong, go to the doctor, get it checked out. And if they say something is that it's nothing or whatnot, but you still think that it is something, go get a second opinion, fourth. Is until you feel comfortable what's going on in your body, because you're your own best advocate. You know your body better than anybody else, and if something's wrong, go to the doctor.
Yeah. Another myth that I've been trying to knock down is because there was no cancer history in my family either. And you mentioned that there was no history, no real history in your family. Just because there's no history of cancer in your family does not mean that you can't have cancer, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It's I'm proof of it. Proof of it. It happens. It can happen to anybody. Cancer does not discriminate. So,
Gotcha.
the possibilities, you just have to be, we need the world here of everything. So we need to quit being so, quiet about certain cancers, breast cancer in men, anal cancer, all of that, just because of the words that are being said. They're not taboo. We can say them. They're in our vocabulary. Just say them and have the awareness being there. Everything you see about breast cancer always says women, shows pink, shows this. But admit the effects that if we were to change just a few things to show men in it, or add a little bit of blue to it, like we say, or just say men diagnosed with breast cancer, the second you would say that, especially think of like an ad during a football game, during a commercial during a football game with how many men are watching it and stuff, and you say men can get breast cancer, how many people that would affect, or to reach out and build the awareness, being like, oh, well, it's not going to happen. It's not, but there's a possibility that it could happen. It's a small possibility, and it's still a possibility, though.
Right. Here's another question on the board for you. Are men with
Gynecomastia.
thank you, more
You're welcome.
susceptible to breast cancer? It's
So
different for me.
yeah, so like I said, when it comes to some of the medical and everything, to retain a lot of that, but it doesn't always happen. So hopefully, maybe there is somebody watching that has a little bit more medical history background than I do. Um, I I think that they are. Um, there is a lot of misdiagnosis that sometimes men get diagnosed with cancer, but then it can end up being breast cancer. Um, so and kind of vice versa, because sometimes you have to find the right doctor, because not all doctors are knowledgeable in of our health. Everybody's focused on certain things. So that's where the misdiagnosis comes out. I want to say yes, I believe that men with gynecomastia are susceptible, but don't quote me on that. And
Gotcha.
if you just goes back to the if you have a question about anything about your body, go see a medical professional. To a
Exactly.
breast, go to a breast center. Just don't go to your primary care doctor, because that's what I did at first with my physical, and even after my diagnosis, when I went back to him for something a couple months later, I asked him about adding breast exams for men during a physical, and it wasn't like I had to still pay him to go see him again and stuff. So when I was in there, I asked him about it, and he goes, "Well, statistics are it's 1% of breast cancer cases are men, and so and you really have to have the history of it, the family history of it for us to really have any knowledge of it. So no, we probably wouldn't be adding a breast exam to your physical and stuff." And I'm just kind of thinking, I'm like, I've already paid you to walk in this office and stuff. I probably paid you a couple $100 for a third exam or appointment with you, and you're telling me it's not worth your time to do a quick 30-second to a minute rub down on a male's chest to see if they have a lump like that. I was just like, after hearing that, I was like, I'm going to another doctor now. It's just like, if that's the way your attitude is, I need it's going to be more open to it.
That should be the red flag right there. That it's not going to move forward the way you want it.
So, so I mean, if you want to jump back into kind of the timeline of
Sure.
my diagnosis and everything. So we were in the doctor's office that called me to tell me what the pathology reports were saying the next day, and we have it was 24 hours, so we pulled together all these questions that we searched on breast cancer, male breast cancer, just in general, to go in. And my first question to him was, so where do we go from here? And he goes, well, it's gonna have to be a double mastectomy, no way around it. You can't do just one side. We're doing both this, and then you'll have probably some chemo treatments and this, and it just kind of all this information. I'm like, whoa. I was like, okay, well, how many of these surgeries are performed on a male? And he goes, you'd be the first. And I was like, okay, well, how many on females? And he was like, oh, a couple dozen. So I'm just kind of like, the be the first one. I was like, I'm sorry. In my head, I'm like, I'm not going to be a guinea pig for this guy. And his bedside manner is horrible. Asking him to discuss with my parents and him being like, nope, you're 24-year-old. You can handle this all by yourself. It's like, no, there's a lot of information you're going to have. So a few more questions, but, ultimately told him at the end of it, we're like, thank you for your time, but we're going to get a second opinion. And like I tell everybody, I was extremely lucky. The fact that I was 20, a male, the hospital that I was at, they asked if they could share out my case. They were like, your name wouldn't be attached with it. It would just be 24-year-old male, breast cancer, and just about the tumor. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. I was like, I don't really care. At the time, I was kind of like, what the hell? It was the best thing that we could have done, because my case got shared out to like a round table of some of the top doctors in the area within that week. And we come to find out that one of the doctors that was there, my dad's company that he owns, his Rink machine company, he was a machines all the time, and we ran into him in the parking lot of the hospital. And he was like, he goes, Margarita Bob, he goes, how are you guys doing? What are you guys doing here? And my dad was like, yeah, we're here for my son. He's got diagnosed with breast cancer, and he made, you're the 24-year-old male with breast cancer. He goes, oh my God, I can't believe I actually know who that is. He goes, but you're in good hands. He goes, your stories, your case is being shared out to a lot of the top doctors in the area. And he was like, we're going to figure this out.
Wow.
So I got helped out along the way. A lot of doctors in the area, they're just trying to figure out what's going on. So I got set up with the surgeon that ended up doing the mastectomy. Amazing, one of the best surgeons that I've met. In the first appointment with him, he laid everything out. He was like, the way the treatments are going now for men, and I'm thankful for everybody else that's been diagnosed now and stuff, because the treatments have totally changed. But he told me, he was like, it is going to be a double mastectomy. We don't have to do them both at the same time. He goes, we do need to do the right breast right now, because that's where the lump was at. And we got to make sure that we get the clear margins and lymph nodes and everything around that. But we can come back and do the left side at a later time, within the same year probably, but just at a later time. It doesn't have to be done right this second. Hearing that, I was like, oh, that's a little bit reassuring. And just talking to him, I asked questions. I was like, how many males have you done this before? And he goes, I've performed surgery on a dozen males before you and countless women before. And I was like, well, that's good. So he knows what he's doing. And, he even brought it up. He was like, I can try to reach out to some of my former patients if you have any questions, but I'm going to just tell you right now that most of them probably won't answer any questions. Most of them took time off work, recovered from it, and went back to work and never talked about it again. Act like nothing ever happened. And he goes, that's just one of the way it is with men, because breast cancer men. No, breast men, breast, we have pets, we have muscles, manly, masculine, and everything. And he goes, but in talking with you in our discussions and everything, he said that if you're willing to share your story, he goes, I believe that you can have a huge impact on men, on the world, or the U.S., the world. He just kind of kept building it up and everything. And I just kept on thinking. I was like, thank you. I was like, I'm gonna have to think on that and everything. And so we left. We left out. A few days later, we had an appointment with a plastic surgeon because I work around a pool, and I like hang out at the lakes and pools and whatever with my friends. And if I take my shirt off, then what's everybody gonna think? What am I gonna look like? Because all the pictures that we could find was like this deep caved-in chest on like one side, scar, and I was like, I'm gonna have to live with that for the rest of my life. So we met with a plastic surgeon, one of the top ones in the area in the Midwest region, and he was actually a brother of a good family. So I've never met him before, but it was the first time. But he was recommended to us, and he told me that we're meeting questions, and he said, I haven't performed. This is the second time. I've never performed this type of reconstructive on a male before. I'm not saying it can't happen, but we can. I'm sure we can do something to make it right. On likings of what you think that you'd like. Hearing that I was going to be like another test subject, another guinea pig, what he had to say and stuff, but I'm pretty sure like it was like the second that we walked out of that meeting, we got to the car, that I told my parents, I was like, I'm not having reconstructive surgery and speaking out, because I after talking to the like actual surgeon and stuff, that there is a need for this. I have to speak up. I have to start sharing my story. I have to make sure that people are aware that breast cancer can happen, and I'm not going to do reconstructive. I'm not going to have a nipple tattooed or anything like that, because this is my story now, and this is what's going to have the most impact. Because one of the first when attended as a survivor, I went to go check in at the survivor's desk, and I kind of got this look like when I said Bret Miller, survivor, that you can't be a survivor, you're a male. Kind of, it wasn't said, but the look was there, like this pause. And I just go, all right, well, here you go. I lifted up my shirt. And it was just kind of like, oh yeah. So it just kind of all just started snowballing from there. And that's, after I had the mastectomy. So the surgeon told my mom before he went into the room, I was already, getting prepped and everything, but he told my mom that I'm going to prepare you for the worst, because the 7 years that the 7+ years that he's had this lung, there's a good possibility that this cancer could be everywhere. But wow. I just wanted to prepare you for that. I didn't know this until a couple of days afterwards. My mom told me. And but like I said, I was extremely lucky. I got very lucky. It was very slow growing because it was diagnosed, like they said, barely stage 1 because of the size of the tumor, but it was ductal carcinoma in the tube. And it did not get into my lymph nodes. So they did a 1-inch clean margins around the nipple area. And, took the breast tissue and the few lymph nodes kind of around the nipple and stuff. And I did an Oncotype Dx test at the time. It was still a fairly new test, and I believe I was the second male, first or second to do the test. It was
Wow.
um, we got the test, and their data said that I would benefit from having chemotherapy. That if I were to do it, the chances of cancer coming back over a 10-year period could drop by 10%. All this data that they have, I still don't understand how the test goes, but it's science, and science is pretty cool. So it said that I had like a 22% chance of cancer coming back over a 10-year period, but in doing chemotherapy and tamoxifen for 5 years, that my chances could lower by at least 10%. And I was like, well, let's get closer to that zero number as possible. So, I was 24. I felt healthy. I think during the entire time from my diagnosis to the end of my cancer, my chemo treatments, I think I missed a total of like 8 days of work.
Wow.
And it was just because like I couldn't like just sit there and just wait for things to do and stuff. Like I think for the very first chemo treatment, I took the day before chemo treatment and the day after, just because they were giving it to me. I was like, cool, days off work, I'll take them. Second, third, and the
Okay.
fourth and stuff.
A little annoyed with you right now, but that's
I
really
know,
good. Just
but
that's
that's
really
a it affects it hits everybody
good. Yeah.
differently,
Yeah.
and I know that there are treatments, and for some people, and it hits, and I feel horrible for saying how it affected me and stuff,
No,
but
but I'm going to stop you just for a second. But that I'm so glad you said that because I had a hernia surgery, which is how we found the cancer, which led to the stoma surgery. So I went through a year and a half total staying home basically,
uh-huh.
and then you had a week, whatever. And so, but I like that we have that contrast and that because people can get an idea that it's very different. Cancers are very different for everybody,
Oh
and
yeah, it
don't
affects everybody's
yourself
bodies
yourself.
different. Yeah, you can't take one person's experience and expect that's what it's going to be. Because there was another male that I didn't meet for a couple of years later. He's in Indiana, and his gallbladder is what helped him find his cancer. Because he went in to get, he had the pain and everything, his gallbladder and stuff, and they were doing the ultrasound and stuff, or the scans and everything, and found this mass on his lung, or the mass on his breast, and that's what he got diagnosed. And he was diagnosed with almost about the cancer, and did the same treatments. That we had the same two chemos that we had to do. But he said when he did his treatments, he was down for like a week. He was in his mid 60s. So doctors like age, bodies, health, all everything plays a factor into it. And so I did the 4 rounds of chemo, and chemo is what pissed me off the most, because the entire time, unless I had my shirt off, nobody knew what was going on until I was in my chemo treatments. It was in between second round and third round, and and when I started losing my hair, and that's what pissed me off the most. And people had asked about it at first. They're like, "Oh, you're getting here for chemo treatment. Are you worried about losing your hair?" I was like, "Not really. Hair, it'll grow back and stuff. I've already lost the nipple. That's not growing back, so I'm kind of come to terms with that
Sorry.
one. But the hair, we can come too." It was it I didn't think much on it until it actually happened when I lost my hair, because it was hair, it was eyebrows, it was eyelashes. I didn't have any facial hair at the time. This all this facial hair is just from COVID, being locked up and everything. I was actually able to grow it finally, 35 years later. But I didn't lose any facial hair, thankfully. But it wasn't until all that was gone that I looked like, and that's what kind of pissed me off the most, because I still felt fine. I was going through treatments, yeah, and my white blood cells and everything were low, but I still felt fine. I didn't feel fatigue. I didn't get all the nauseous,
It's
throwing
tough.
up and all these other symptoms that everybody else did. I had some of the side effects like metal taste, or water taste metal, and all that stuff, but those are just kind of like little things. It was losing the hair the most, because then it just looked like I was dying, but I wasn't. I everything was caught early, and it was just, it was that moment. It was kind of and everything, but I did the finish the chemo, Started on tamoxifen. I was tamoxifen for about a month, but I started getting all their side effects, the hot flashes, which did not like at all. And then my mom said I was moody, but it was more probably just directed at. They
Oh, I
stopped me on
lost.
tamoxifen and they put me on Arimidex. Um, so Arimidex, anastrozole, I always forget which one's like the name, which one's generic, so on, whatever. I was on that for 5 years, and to me, it just felt like I was taking a vitamin. Like I didn't feel any side effects from it ever.
Wow, that's very
I did all that, and it was close to shortly after my mastectomy is when we started the Bret Miller 1T Foundation, and the reason of starting it was to awareness in men and the youth because of how young I was with finding the lump. The cancer can happen to men, but when you're younger, male or female, you need to know your bodies and you need to be more open to speaking about it. And if you feel something, say something, like we talked about already. So the Bret Miller Foundation was formed. Why that is, as you can see, I have 1T in my name. I always got mad at my mom for when I was younger that the other Brets that I met had 2Ts, and why was I different, so on, whatever. But after getting diagnosed, it kind of came full. It's Brett with 1T, one tit, and one nipple. Um, so the Bret Miller 1T Foundation, because we we
I love
wanted
you,
to,
man.
I wanted to call that was inappropriate. Got my one nipple foundation. It's just hidden into it.
That's awesome.
But then
I
we
love that
evolved to.
optimistic side of it. You gotta.
You have to have humor in it.
Yeah, I
You
do
need to
stand up
have humor in it.
comedy. I do stand up, and it's a great opportunity to do butt jokes about anal
Uh-huh.
cancer, and
It,
you
it,
get
it
away with
helps.
it. You
It
get
helps
away with
everybody. It helps everybody around you because then they feel more comfortable to asking you questions about it. More questions that they would probably be like, "Oh, I don't know if I can ask them that because it's probably going to upset them, and I don't want to be the person that upsets them, and whatever." But you can crack some jokes about it, and get along and do that. So that evolved into the Male Breast Cancer Coalition because of how many men we were having impacted by it. All over the world, men are reaching out and finding us and sharing their stories and being more comfortable sharing it. We have a male up in New York, and it wasn't until I was on the Katie Couric show in early 2013 he was diagnosed probably 6 or 7 months after I was diagnosed. Um, Maybe not even that long, but his sister died from uh, breast cancer, so he had a family history of it. And then
it.
but he wouldn't talk about it. But he saw me on the Katie Couric show and saw that I was on there with Richard Roundtree, which for those who may not know, he was the original Shaft, the fictional character. He's a bad mother, you know,
Oh,
but yeah, actor and everything. But he was diagnosed in the mid '90s, and he didn't talk about it. His diagnosis for like 4 or 5 years because he believed that if he came out breast cancer, being a male and a black male in Hollywood, that he would start losing work. So he was very quiet about it for quite some time. But back to one of our survivors that didn't talk about it much at all. Seeing me on the Katie Couric show, the second the show aired, he was calling us that next day or that, and now I can't get. I joke about it. I always say like, "Man, shut up." He's one of our best. He's one of the best advocate for men. He's even greater advocate for metastatic because of him personally being affected by it. So, but just having that impact on men and others to feel more comfortable about it because of my age. Everybody else that I'm meeting is 10 to 20 years older than I am, minimum.
gotcha.
So being an impact and helping them be more comfortable with their diagnosis is just made this thing come full circle.
Cool. Well, listen, we're at the 15-minute mark. This is the time of the show where I ask my guests to share some words of wisdom with the audience. So, Brett Miller, what words of wisdom do you have for us?
Well, be your own best advocate. You know your body, your breast self exams. Do it the same way women do it. If you go to our website, we have a link up selfexams.org, or one of our other websites, with videos on how to properly do a breast self exam for men. There's cards on there as well, into 20 plus different languages that you can print off for free, and it shows for both men and women on how to. breast self exam. Um, get all the information that you can. Ask all the questions. Uh, I was 24 when I was diagnosed, so I had the plans to get married and have kids, but I didn't really ask the questions. But the nurses, they knew the things to talk about, so they did talk about fertility and to possibly look at freezing sperm and so ensure that you. So because they were like, know what the chemo is going to do to your body. It could sterilize, it could not, could do nothing, could whatever. So I did have sperm banked, and luckily I didn't use it. It frozen for a little over 10 years. And then we had our daughter in 2019. So I was like, yay, I don't have to keep paying to have all these expensive freezing stuff. I had a daughter, and we at least had one kid and stuff. And and like I said at the beginning and stuff, we were lucky enough to be blessed with a baby boy,
Yeah.
and on March 29th. So, but no, get all the questions and get all the answers to all your questions that you have. Just aren't blind to anything. And really, there really is no stupid questions to ask when you get diagnosed. Just because it could be anything. It could be the question that you ask that actually helps you out the most. So
Can we talk a little bit about? I don't want to leave without talking about mental health. You brought it up a little bit at the beginning of the show. Um, where was your mental health during, and where are you now?
um, during, I mean, it's hard to. It's sometimes it's kind of hard to think back on it and stuff, but I I was doing all right at the time. I think I tried to probably bottled up more than I should have and everything, but I did speak out. I think what helped me the most was speaking out and talking about just rather than just going through it like nothing was happening. So I think speaking out and sharing my story and stuff was what helped me out the most. Because if I were to have kept it in the entire time, I don't think that it would have ended up well. But now other stresses, work and all that stuff. But um, everything's for me is good right now. But mental health is a big issue in this country, and everybody needs to know that it is okay to not be okay. So speak out, find a buddy, find a support system, groups, whatever you need, but talk to somebody. Don't keep it bottled up because it does not help anybody.
Very well. Um, Stigma is huge, and we've been talking about it throughout the show. And again, anal cancer is similar in that aspect that as men, we just don't want to talk about it. It's like, well,
Hmm.
I don't want nobody talking about my butt. Um, what are what are some steps that we could take to make the conversation more natural?
I think it's just including. Um, it's one. Not being feeling awkward when you hear the word breast cancer. For one, I mean, say breast, boobs, tits, whatever you want to say. Um, but joking around with all your friends, you all say it. Everybody always says it. There's always jokes in it. So, but including men in the conversation is what we really need. What we feel that we really need is because every time you hear breast cancer, you immediately think women because everything is, and more women are being diagnosed, more women are dying from it. And those are statistics, and I get that. But all I'm asking for is just and not just being like always saying women, but just male or female diagnosed with breast cancer, female, male, however you want to say it. That's why you can see on the ribbon on the hat and stuff, the ribbon on the tattoo on my side, and why I went with the pink and the blue. When I was diagnosed, we looked up ribbon colors, and all there was for male breast cancer at the time was like a darker blue ribbon with the male uh, gender sign, and that was it. So there was nothing in it. So we just started seeing some that had the colors of pink and blue, and I was like, I like those and stuff. I know that the pink and blue combo and stuff also is for premature babies and infant death and stuff like that. But every one that I found on those had the blue in front and the pink behind it. Um, I don't. So that's why I kind of settled. I was like, I like the pink in front and the blue in back, and the main reason for it is that it's a dominantly female disease. Females are going to get most. They're going to get diagnosed first and stuff, but men can still get it too. But on top of that, for a lot of women, their support system, the ones that are backing them up, behind them, supporting them. So that's why the blue, the pink in front, the blue behind.
Gotcha.
Um,
Let me
so
just some information that I found for those of you watching. Based on the CDC website, breast cancer among males in the United States is rare, with approximately 23,000 new cases and 500 deaths reported in 2017. That's the last statistics found.
I believe it's
Accounting for about
2,300, not 23,000.
yeah, it says 23,000 new cases, 2,300. Sorry,
Thank
2,300.
you. Yeah, I was
2,300.
like, I've been seeing those numbers, but
Yeah,
yeah, but when you break down those that are dying, and those that are being diagnosed and those that are dying compared to the women's and stuff, the percentages for men is even higher, and it's because men aren't men don't know about it. The awareness really isn't there. Getting diagnosed is stage 3 and stage 4, and when it's metastatic, there is no cure, as we know.
and
So there's so much more treatments and awareness out there for women. So they know to check their breasts. That if they feel a lump, to get to a doctor, and they can diagnose it and catch it in early stages. Because I believe it's like 95%, or maybe a little bit higher now. Stage 1, predominantly for women, for sure, is curable. So
and
it's because they got the awareness, and we just need the men to be included in it.
and just based on the American Cancer Society webpage, it is estimated that in 2022 there will be approximately 2,710 new cases of male breast cancer. So, just
Yes.
for those of you, for all the guys out there watching us, um, there are things that we don't talk about. Breast cancer is one of them. Anal cancer is another one. Uh, go get checked. Testicular cancers is the third one. Uh,
Yep. It's
we
just
always
it's being a male. We need to be more open about our health, and and diagnosis, and just talk in general. This whole age old, go rub some or walk it off, mentality and stuff needs to go away. We need to be open about our health, our mental health, and and just to survive.
we got about 6 minutes to go. So for the folks out there that kind of missed the beginning of the show, can you repeat what your original symptoms were and how it got you to get you?
So original symptoms at the very beginning was the lump directly below my right nipple. I had the lump for 7+ years, 7ish years. But it was about a year and a half, 2 years tops. Um, that I had before my actual diagnosis, that I had a yellow oranges discharge from my nipple if I were to bump into something or squeeze the lump. So lump is like the dead giveaway that you need to get out. Just the nipple, inverted nipple, discoloration in the skin, dimpling of the skin, any symptoms that I was not aware of until I got diagnosed when I looked it up. Like, when I looked it up, it literally said like lump discharge, and I was like, wow, I hit number 1 and number 2. I'm a little over, yes, but um, there. If you go to our website, the American Cancer Society's website, you go to any breast cancer website, most of them are going to have some information about symptoms on there. So if you have a question, reach out. You can contact us through the Male Breast Cancer Coalition. Um, Myself or my mom were pretty active on it, and uh, fairly responsive to anybody, as well as on our Facebook page too, to reach out through there. We're happy to answer any questions for anybody that has uh, just any in general. I can tell everybody I'm pretty much an open book. Um, Nothing really kind of shies me away unless you start talking really medical terms, and I just kind of like so.
That's well, that helps a lot. I'm one reason I wanted you on the show is appreciating how open you are about what happened. I think at a certain point, as men going through cancer situations that normally don't happen, I feel like it's somehow we take that obligation, that we take that responsibility. It's like, okay, I'm in this position. I can either hide and keep it from everybody, or be an open book and make sure that people get all the information, no matter how uncomfortable it can be sometimes. So,
Mhm.
From an anal cancer survivor to a breast cancer survivor, man, I commend you and applaud you for being so open.
Thank you. And thank you for speaking up yourself and building the awareness. Well, all that's all we can do to help everybody out in this world.
With your tits and my ass, we're gonna take over the world.
I,
There, I said it.
a,
I said
a little Q&A with TNA. Got it.
it. We're gonna have to do another panel. Now we have to do another panel. Just this good panel.
I'm all for it.
Um,
I'm sure
again, I'm gonna
we
show.
can get. I'm sure we can get a couple of our friends out there. You know, from the Man Up to Cancer and stuff. Some of our testicular.
Yeah.
Out yeah.
I'm wearing my Men Up to Cancer T-shirt today, and I want people to see your T-shirt. Could you like stand up for a second so they can see
That
it?
T-shirt says, "Men have breasts too." Back, if
That's
I
awesome.
turn around, I'm sure I won't get it and stuff. But it says, "Guys, don't be afraid to touch yourself." That was our first slogan, and we had it on the front. So we had the handprints on the front. It said, "Guys, don't be afraid to touch yourself."
That's so
So
awesome. Again, the websites to get in touch with Bret, you can go to the Male Breast Cancer Coalition.org. It's org, remember org. Go check it out at checkthem.org. Or if you're on Facebook, you can find them at Male Breast Cancer Coalition. And go check out. We have one more comment before we go. Oh, little hearts from our friend Estella. They're part of the lupus group. So thank you, Estella. Thank you for watching.
gotcha.
I want to
Thank
thank
you.
I'm going to put you in the green room for a second, but I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. For those of you, again, the only reason we postponed was because the baby was on the way, so we had to postpone it. Congratulations again on your kids, and
Thank you.
I'm going to put you in the green room for a second while I say goodbye to everybody. Don't go anywhere.
Sounds
We'll be
good.
right back.
All right.
For everybody watching, thank you so much for joining us today. We've been speaking with breast cancer survivor Bret Miller. If you missed any of it today, make sure you go watch it on the replays. If you're watching us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter, make sure that you share this so that other people can watch it. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, scroll down, and hit the notification bell. Make sure you get notified every time there's a new episode. And if you're like, what shows do you have, Daniel? Well, I've got a little thing for that. Check us out on Wednesdays with the Christian and Daniel Show at 6, 9 Eastern. On Fridays, the Card Devo at 5, 8 Eastern. And on Saturdays, put it together at 12 Pacific and 3 Eastern. Remember, every once in a while, we throw in some special shows during the week. And on Mondays, on all of our pages, you can find my horoscopes for the week. So make sure you check those out. Again, we're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Hashtag Little Mexican Productions Inc. And you can find almost anything online. Or go check us out at littlemexicanproductions.com. For those of you that have asked, yes, I'm still working on the link to sell my book. I promise. If one of you is really knowledgeable on how to set up those stores, please get in touch with me. I am such a knucklehead. I can't get those together. But Grumpy Bunny and the Colors Game is ready. It's right here in my house. I just need to get the site up and get ready to go. We have another one. Thank you. Thanks, Christian. That's my partner, Christian. You can catch him and me on Wednesday nights. Again, thanks to Bret Miller for joining us today. Thank you all for watching. We will see you next time. Hey, remember, put it together. Bye.